My name is French Thompson. My address is on record. Madam Mayor, my city council, I spent a lot of time working with city staff and city council on the previous tourism plan. And one of the things that never showed up in it was there weren't any actionable or deliverables. The whole plan was basically just aspirational. You know, aspirational is winning the lottery. I mean, I've got that. Probably a lot of you have that. The only problem is if you don't go buy a ticket, you can't do it. So there's a big difference between aspirations and actually doing what it takes to make things happen. So I would like to see a future plan have some actionable plans, and I'd like to have it have some deliverables. So some of the things that happened before is we hired these outside consultants, which I've seen this over the many years that I've been here in downtown. They've got a column A, a column B, and a column C, and they go to Tulsa, and they go to Denver, and they go to Scottsdale, and they go to Mesa, and they just pick something out of column A, column B, and column C. They don't really look at the existing assets. This city of Scottsdale has got assets that other cities don't have. We have the world-class Old Town Scottsdale. We've got a world-famous Scottsdale Arts District. Those are assets that need to be promoted and moved forward. You don't need to bring in outside businesses to do events here when you have homegrown assets that keep their tax money here, they keep their salaries here, they keep their employees here, and they don't take their profits out of state. So when people talk about bringing in outside things, outside events, that's how you grow it. No, you grow it by promoting what you have here and making what you have here better. Honestly, if you got a great garden, you still go out there and fertilize it and weed it and spend some time with it, give it a little bit of love. You don't just bring in a whole different bunch of dirt and just dump it on it and throw in some new plants. No, you cultivate it, and that's what City of Scottsdale needs to do with this tourism plan. So I just would urge you, City Council, to direct staff to include actionable strategies and request deliverables, much like you asked the Museum of the West to have some deliverables and show them to you. So that's what I'd like to see in this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Pejman.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski. Council members, name is Bob Pejman, address is on record. And I want to go back to the Keene survey. So about 3-4 months ago, the city invested money, and a company called Keene did a survey of 150 Old Town stakeholders. And the result of that survey showed a major disconnect between what the stakeholders would like to have be done as far as a tourism plan and the city's existing tourism strategic plan. Major disconnect. And I'm assuming that this work study is here to bridge that gap, right? So to have that input of those 150 stakeholders be reflected in a new tourism plan, in a rewrite, and not just the 150 plus more. So, but what is Old Town? Old Town is really a collection of existing core assets. What are those assets? Small retail shops, restaurants, art galleries, museums, civic center, waterfront, etc., right? But when I look at this plan and I glance, the plan looks, kind of convoluted in the way that you don't know where it's really going. However, I did a word search. The word event occurs 150 times or more. But when you look at these other core assets, Scottsdale Museum is the West, happens only once. There's 0 mention of the word art galleries. There's 4 mention of the word restaurants, 5 mention of the word retail. I mean, we're not talking about, this is self-serving about the galleries, the retail we're talking about. In the meantime, over 150 references to events. On page 25, it says, attract new year-round events. And that's fine. Events are great, right? But this plan should prioritize the existing core assets. So no wonder the result of the survey was so poor, because the merchants don't feel valued. They feel that they're here providing a great product, great service. Collectively, they constitute Old Town. And instead, every consultant comes in and wants to put the focus on outside events. And I think that this is a great opportunity in the rewrite to make sure that not only the existing core assets are prioritized, we should actually make a special place in this plan to include the Old Town marketing plan in it and tie it directly to the 5% of the bed tax. We need specific stuff, enough of this aspirational stuff. You know, I mean, some of the language used in here is explore opportunities to expand the promotion of retail. I mean, how much more unactionable can you make that, right? With all these qualifiers that make it like not something that's actionable. I do believe that since the Keene survey was so effective, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on this. We should use that survey along with the input direction from council for the city to go back and basically come up with a new plan. I hope this is not going to be a 6-month process. I think because you already have the survey and you know the recent temperature and stuff here, you can actually speed this into a 3-month process and come up with a very solid plan that really takes advantage of Old Town's great assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here, David Smith. You're up. Welcome, former council member David Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So by default, I get a chance to address you. You have a big job ahead of you, and I'm the only thing standing between you and doing that tonight, so I'm going to be as brief as I can. But I'll echo many of the comments that were made by the previous speakers. I think we need an actionable plan with deliverables and metrics for measuring a marketing program for the city's greatest asset. It's not galleries, it's not restaurants, it's collectively all the businesses that comprise, and by the way, also the government-owned properties that comprise the downtown area as the major tourist attraction for the city. So their plea to you is not to support their business, their plea is to support the Old Town visitor attraction. It is enumerated in the plan. There is a section that talks about the importance of Old Town, but just nothing talks about how we're actually going to market it. One other thing I would make as a suggestion, when it says in the plan that you want to make sure that we actually consider tourism on the actions that we take, there's a way you can do that. Just as you have on your council reports a financial impact of every decision, you could add the requirement of a tourism impact for every decision. So if we're going to build a building, what's the impact? If we're going to do a road, what's the impact? It would be an easy thing for staff to address, and it would give you some guidance as to what these initiatives impact on tourism. And finally, I'll say, I know in another section of the report, it doesn't relate to Old Town, but you're going to look at the feasibility of looking or considering a new and larger performing arts venue. I would urge you to put together a consortium of interested parties, the folks who actually run the performing arts activities in the city. And start with the biggest, Music Fest up north, or Scottsdale Arts, what they do, or put in some of the smaller venues. For example, Ravenscroft, if you've ever been there, or Don Bluth's Theater, or Desert Stages, or the Kerr Cultural Center. There are many, many interested parties, and they need to be collectively all heard from as you consider this. You have a big job ahead of you. I hope you can bring definition and clarity to the plan. Certainly, everybody's waiting to hear for that, so good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate your input. All right, that concludes the public comment on the work study session. And with that, I'll invite Kevin Burke, Senior Director of Economic Development and Tourism, to take us through these slides.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Kevin Burke, and I serve as the Senior Director for Economic Development and Tourism for the City of Scottsdale. I'll appreciate your patience and forbearance this evening. This is my first opportunity to speak with you in these chambers, so thank you.
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a tremendously exciting first 6 weeks, I'll say that. So our purpose here tonight is to discuss and for staff to solicit input on the Tourism and Events Strategic Plan. Excuse me. Scottsdale has a successful track record of using strategic plans to guide our tourism efforts. The current plan was adopted by the City Council in January 2023 and was intended to be implemented through 2027. The full document was included in your materials and is organized around 8 experience principles that are listed here. I believe the plan has served the organization and the community well. However, with the rapid pace of change in the global and the regional economy, as well as evolving expectations of both visitors and local stakeholders, staff believes it is timely to begin development of the next iteration of our tourism strategic plan. As Senior Director of Economic Development and Tourism, I strongly believe that using the strategic plan to provide a roadmap for our team's efforts, to establish goals and key performance indicators, and to have a framework to track our performance. So tonight, I am requesting Mayor and Council's input on the process, structure, and content of the new strategic plan. And my team stands ready to engage a broad and representative group of stakeholders to develop a document which we would then bring back for consideration by this body. With that, I'll be happy to address any questions and take direction from the Mayor and Council on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Burke, thank you for your presentation, and we're glad you're here. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
I want to thank my colleagues for bringing this back up for the council's consideration. I'm very appreciative that they chose to do that. I'm really happy we're taking another look at the tourism strategic plan. I think the goal of this, in my mind, is to put an emphasis on the year-round and the known assets that we have in our city. The museums, galleries, performing arts, independent restaurants, specialty stores, civic center, waterfront, public art, from the southern border to the northern. The things that really define us and bring visitors here. I agree with Mr. Pejman. He pointed out the Keene survey, and you've probably already studied up on that, gives us a solid input from 150 Old Town stakeholders that we should use to guide a recraft of the plan. Now, this is going to be a group effort. My vision for this was not a wholesale change, repeal everything and replace it with something. This was just a refinement. That was kind of my vision for it. As you know, the existing plan did come to us from I shouldn't say some, but from an expensive Toronto-based consulting firm, and it does kind of read. It's got nice pictures, and I got no problem with the pictures. Let's keep the pictures, right? It's got a lot of flowery language. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But there's a lot of things that are in it that read like generic, off-the-rack boilerplate that doesn't deeply dive and celebrate Scottsdale's unique character. As David Smith mentioned, actionable plan with specific deliverables, or clear steps, or measurable outcomes. But I mean, truthfully, I would say almost any focused rewrite it would be hard. I think it would be hard to, if you gave this an honest try to give it a focused rewrite. It will be a big improvement. So I kind of want to keep my remarks brief. I do have these advisories because these, I've been part of these plans when I was on Planning Commission, I was on Transportation Commission, and we go through these action plans and master plans and general plans, and I've seen how they can snowball, and they can veer off course, and they can rat hole, and people can just start, getting fixated on things that before you know it, you're completely off mission. Really try to resist that temptation. This is not a repeal and replace. As the way I saw it, it was a refinement. I don't think this should require an expensive consulting firm. That's kind of what you said. It's kind of what I heard you say. I agree with you. I think that we have the data before us. We have the stakeholders. I think it should be collaborative. I think it should be consensus-driven. I think that we have the experts on staff with the know-how to do it. I do. We have stakeholders. We know how to find them. We know how to engage them. I don't think it should be a 6 or 9 month process, A lot of these plans, it's almost like the longer I take, the more time I put into it, the longer I make you wait, the more I'm justifying why I'm here. Doesn't mean it has to be overnight or next week, but I think that, belaboring it, protracting it needlessly, I don't think is necessary. I think we can resist that. I don't think we need a long study to learn what we already know. I do think maybe the tough part, and I don't know, maybe this will maybe be staff's decision, but maybe you want to interface or go through it with TDC or something like that. That may be kind of what you're thinking. But these plans are updated. These plans get updated all the time, these types of plans, where you take the prior plan and you just, you update, you improve what needs improved, and you set aside maybe what's outdated or expired. Maybe staff will liaise with TDC and get their input, because I do think it should be, like I said, be consensus-driven. I think it should be bottom-up. I think that might have been a little bit of the problem with the last one, is it wasn't so bottom-up. It was probably a little more top-down. I think the toughest part of this exercise is, like all these exercises for these plans, is building a consensus on reshaping goals and defining success. Success definition, I think, is, especially in the world of marketing, That's one of the things I respect about marketing, about marketers. They find ways to say, how they've returned, how they brought return on investment, because marketing sometimes can be difficult to measure that. So that's your expertise. That's why we hire experts like you and your team that we can lean on. And so I don't want it to, grow ball or stone is something that's, some unexpected leviathan that we didn't see coming. Don't want that. And again, my gratitude goes to my colleagues, and my appreciation to them, my appreciation to you for the alacrity you've shown in taking this on. So thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman McCallan.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the city of Scottsdale, Mr. Burke.
Thank you.
Last week, Mr. Burke and I had the pleasure of attending a forum on tourism and how it affects Scottsdale, Tempe, and kind of the metropolitan area. Those present at the tourism summit, that was what it was called, Tourism Summit, I was trying to remember what they called it, that was put on by Congressman Stanton. We had the pleasure of having the National Transportation and Tourism authority for all of the U.S. They're from D.C. and his assistants, and they were talking about Scottsdale, and I kind of felt sorry for Tempe because it was in Tempe, but they just kept throwing accolades on Scottsdale. And it was great for Kevin to be there and to hear how wonderful, and he was pretty excited to be representing Scottsdale. But one of the things they did say that we do right is the city of Scottsdale depends on Experience Scottsdale. We use the professionals, and this gentleman who's the CEO, the head tourism authority for all of US, said that Experience Scottsdale is the #1 destination marketing organization in all of the US. And we have it, and we're smart enough to use them. So I thought that was very exciting for us to hear that, for other cities to hear that. And so what I would encourage the staff to do, Mr. Burke, is to listen to the professionals, as well as what Mr. Graham said, listen to the stakeholders, listen to our citizens, members of the Tourism Development Commission. There's a reason why they were appointed. The people on that commission are professionals in the tourism industry, and they're also residents of Scottsdale. That's very important. What some of the speakers tonight said, I think it was Mr. Thompson, he said to listen to the stakeholders from throughout Scottsdale, how it affects Scottsdale. And I realize Old Town is its own entity, and it's a geographic area per se, but other events affect Old Town. An example, the Open. People come for the Open knowing that they're going to spend their evenings in Old Town. They may attend Barrett-Jackson during the day, but in the nighttime, they're going to spend their time in Old Town. They're going to attend the Art Walk on Thursdays. They're going to attend maybe concerts at the Center for the Arts, things of that nature. So ancillary events that may happen in Scottsdale, outside of Scottsdale, those are also stakeholders, because when they advertise to the citizens throughout the world, those people are also going to come to Old Town. So we need to be looking at all of those stakeholders, I believe, not just, in Old Town, but those that are interdependent and ancillary of Old Town is something that I would suggest. And we heard that at the summit the other day, how these major events, even in Tempe, they were saying how booked up Tempe was for the Phoenix Open that happens in Scottsdale. So those would be my suggestions. And again, welcome. You have a big task ahead of you, but I think that you're going to enjoy it because you're going to find out just how great Old Town is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman DeBoscus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
So I think when Councilman Graham originally approached this idea, what he was sort of broached the idea is we have a tourism plan. It's not specific about some of the things that we've been interested in discussing over the last several months. And so maybe we have some opportunity, instead of sitting here with a big 5-year plan that's not maybe hitting us on all cylinders, that maybe we could do a few updates. And so I presume that you're thinking about the long-term plan, but you're also then refining what we're doing today and going to do that. So my comments really are going to address the long-term plan and sort of where I see us having some holes. And then also, I think you can glean from that what we need to maybe work on in the short term as well. I feel like part of what we need to do every time we do something like this really is to identify our strengths and our culture, because over the course of 5-7 years, we do adjust over time, right? So Scottsdale is cowboy chic. Scottsdale is food, art, open space, health, sports, baseball, golf, soccer, all those good things. We even have the Fiesta Bowl Foundation here, right? So we have lots of good sports, resorts, and all kinds of interesting special events. So taking a look at us as a holistic view, we also have Old Town. We also have museums. We also have this whole big, long list of assets. And I think some of that can get lost when we look at and we try to define 8 ideas, right? So taking a look at our culture, we really are very unique here. We're really proud of that. And so I think our tourism can highlight that a little bit more. We have so many James Beard finalists. Our restaurants, #1 restaurant, the most romantic restaurant in the United States. We have some of just the most fantastic restaurants in the city of Scottsdale. It's really an honor. And so I think some of those things could really be teased out a little bit more and highlighted. We're known for our super season. And so the opportunity to bring in tourism during our super season, we're doing that really, really well. We are at max capacity at a lot of places. It's hard to get restaurant reservations. It's hard to find parking, all that good stuff. Let's work also in this tourism plan on how do we fill in the off-season, shoulder season, summer season. Let's focus on, the golf courses. All they can do is charge more in January, February, but in May, June, July, they have some openings. So let's focus on the tourism plan in the off-season. And then something that I have thought a lot about is it feels to me like when we walk through all these different venues and opportunities, a lot of it has been in silos. And so I think bringing some of our collaborators to the table, walking through what is our event season, how can we maximize and leverage each other's assets, whether it's marketing assets, maybe it's not our own dollars, right? Maybe we can get some of our partners to work together and use their dollars and maximize and sort of break down some of these silos that we've had over the years. Maybe we have super season, but we also have super weekends, where we can have multiple events and really highlight an off-season weekend or two and see how we can have an impact there. Of course, all this is going to be dependent on us having metrics, being able to really identify whether it's geolocation for cell phones, things like that, and really to be able to understand the numbers of the actual economic impact of what we're doing. When we talk about bringing folks into Old Town, which is, I think, what everyone would say is the one thing that's really stand out different about Scottsdale, we do want to make sure that we have places for them to park. I'll give you an example. We were in San Diego over the summer. My husband and my dad and my son went to go sailing. My mom and I took the girls to go to the Science Museum. The men couldn't find a place to park to go sailing, and they turned around, they went home. My mom and I go to Balboa Park to go to the Science Museum, and it took us 20 minutes to find a parking space. We almost went home. We never want that to happen in Scottsdale. So keeping an eye on parking in the various areas of the venues, I think, is also going to be important for our tourism plan. So we should probably consider, what else do we need? We think Scottsdale is amazing. We think we have everything, but it would probably be helpful to look at competitive cities, to look at other strategic plans, to have some conversations with your peers throughout the United States in these competitive cities and talk about what are you doing, what's doing well. Do we have venues here that we could maximize in a new way, in an interesting way? Is there something missing that we could leverage and do it even more? And is there something else that we should offer, or maybe there's another way we could consider it? So I think a competitive analysis of where does Scottsdale sit in the tourism could be very interesting. And then one of my colleagues mentioned the TDC. We do have tourism professionals that we work with, and the TDC, it feels like, I look through the agenda, I watch the meetings, but I feel like we're not leveraging their expertise, and it's very heavy on hoteliers. So maybe moving forward, we want to think about The hotels are already doing a great job advertising. Maybe we could use some event managers. Maybe we could use some folks who work in advertising and marketing on TDC to sort of have some different thoughts and sort of to grow the TDC in a new way. And they might help push us and think differently a little bit about our tourism. So that's something to consider. I also think we should be really cognizant that this plan sets the tone. We don't listen necessarily to our contractors. Our contractors should be listening to us. So we need to really think through who we are and where we want to go and set the tone, and then we need to let our contractors know this is where you're going and these are our expectations for you at a minimum. So that concept of having activated numbers and targets for folks to hit, those are things that we should be communicating to our partners, our business partners, and making sure that everyone understands that we're setting the tone, we're paying you to do these things, rather than the other way around. The city of Scottsdale, I mean, we sell sunshine all day. It's a fantastic place to be. Anyone who comes here says, wow, this place is amazing. At the Open over the course of the weekend, I had family come in. Our daughter from Seattle, it had been raining and raining and raining. Our nephew from North Carolina, they have had bomb snow threats, things. Another nephew from Colorado, it's snowing there too. So people are thrilled to be here. This is a wonderful place to sell, and so I think this is going to be an exciting project. So thank you very much for working on it, Kevin.
Of course, thank you.
Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have the privilege of working with Kevin in the Economic Development Committee, and he's just an outstanding individual, and I want to thank you for all the yeoman's work you're doing and the rest of the city, the charter officers and the city staff. I want to echo just a couple points really quickly. I think Mr. Pechman is correct in his assessment of making sure that established merchants, established businesses in the Old Town area, especially are, and throughout the city, are reinforced. I think it is the lifeblood, the heart and soul of our economic engines, is our small businesses in the city. I want to reinforce Councilmember Graham's statements as well as Councilmember Duboskis' statements. I think they were all excellent. I just have a very, it's one of those times when I could use a bully pulpit for good, so I'm just going to bring my little, while we're in a work study session, I'm going to bring my little 2 cents in. One of the most underserved aspects of this city is especially in a post-COVID era, is the growth of Scottsdale as a tourism destination for Jews outside of New York who like to travel on the shoulder season of Passover. They don't all just go to Florida for the Passover holiday. They come to Scottsdale. There is a growing population. The Hilton, I know, puts on at least 600 guests. And there's multiple locations throughout the city, throughout the valley, and these are big families coming out, and they're eating and drinking in Scottsdale and looking to move here. So I just wanted to put that out there and see that don't let Florida take them all, because Arizona's a wonderful place to live.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thanks. You know, I agree with some of the statements, such as we don't want to rewrite this, we want to modify this plan. Having been on council when it was written, I was also quite surprised that we brought in a company that wasn't even here. I think what we need to do, not only listen to the stakeholders, but we really have to follow, and Experience Scottsdale is a great source, we have to follow trends. It's what do visitors want? We have really unique everything. You know, the Sonoran Desert is unique, but then we have to have the types of activities that they want to do. And some of having been on Experience Scottsdale board for 2 years and been involved, the environment, hugely important to national and international tourists. That's what's considered in this year's, I think, annual meeting, that was a top consideration. Celebrating different cultures was also a top item. The local hoteliers, and this makes sense since it's already in the plan, want to have a wellness week also, and that's already in this plan. And I do want to point out some of the many successes we had. It used to be until I think we did it in 2020 or 2021, we didn't have access to our own stadium. Only the San Francisco Giants did. So we changed that contract. We rebuilt the Civic Center Plaza. We did a lot of things so that our tourists have more places to go. We have more venues where taxpayers get some revenue out of it. And, so it's, we've expanded, just drastically changed contracts at Westworld to accommodate more events and to focus on what our residents want. So we have to listen to the tourists, not just the stakeholders. And I think there's some overlap in this discussion between marketing and a plan. This is a plan, and a lot of what I'm hearing is how do we market this stuff. That I consider separate. And, we need to obviously constantly invest in marketing, but also invest in our city and our environment so that it's amenable to those visitors. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is not an area of my expertise. I was one of the very few people who failed art in 8th grade because I could not draw. However, music was a different story. I think what we're doing has been highly successful, and I'll give you an example of why I think so. My husband and I took a long-desired trip several years ago to Europe. We went to Italy, and we got on the boats, and we were going down through the canals, and we were having a great time, and I sat next to an older man from Spain. And since I spoke a little Spanish, and he spoke a lot of Spanish, we were kind of mumbling along, and he asked me where I was from. And I said, I'm from Scottsdale. No, I said, I'm from Arizona in the United States. And he goes, Arizona? And I go, Scottsdale. And he goes, Scottsdale. He knew the name, but he didn't know the state. And so I'm thinking that kind of recognition is really what we want, that people will know Scottsdale's special, Scottsdale's unique. That's the place we want to be. And I'm finding that the programs, the past programs and activities that we have done have been very highly successful, especially if we want to go to activities that are year-round, because a lot of people don't have a lot of choice as far as when they can take a vacation. It's kind of determined by the company they work for, the number of days or weeks that they have available for a vacation, how far can they go. And so I think it would be helpful to have a number of different timelines for trips to do things like a 3-day, 4-day, 6-day, 2-week, that kind of thing, so that they have options. And I think, ask the stakeholders, what do they think is missing of what they enjoy here in Scottsdale? Ask our own people. We're growing areas for visitors all the time. What do they look for? What do you hear from them? And something I think you will find all of them say is our visitors are looking for something unique that's just Scottsdale. Now, that may be a little hard to find, but I think that would be a real winner if we can do that. What are the wishes? What are the new things that are coming down the pike? Those are things that we should be looking at, not just, the parada. We've done it for years and years and years. It's highly successful. It's a wonderful parade. Everybody loves it. But what's new? What's something else that they can come and see if they've already been to see the parada? So those are the kinds of things. Also, multiple talents, and not just a play, not just the stage, not just art, but music. How about different kinds of music, different kinds of things? And we do a very good job with that. I think bringing in the Indian community is excellent because it's unique, it's special, and it's real. And so if we can bring those kinds of feelings, like I've seen something that is really part of America, part of the culture, part of the country, but it's not something you can find, in New York. So those are the kinds of things that would be really special for Scottsdale to have a handle on. And I think we've got a good start on a lot of that. Maybe we could grow it and make it better.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm last, but I can't wait to talk about this, one of my favorite topics. So before I talk about it, though, I really want to hone in on what your goal is and what you're looking to get from us, because I could sit here until literally 10 o'clock tonight telling you all the great ideas that I think we can launch, right? But there's a cost associated with those. All those ideas, big costs in some cases, very de minimis in others. I did see in here that you're planning to work with consultants, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. So that's very, it's rather vague. So I'd like to just understand a little more of what you're looking for tonight, what your plans are, because the action item, it's not an action item, but you want input on updating the tourism and events strategic plan. So I don't know that it needs to be updated, maybe executed in a more up-to-date way. I don't know that I would spend a lot more time, a lot of time on rewriting it, as Councilman Graham pointed out. But what are you looking for? And then I know this is going to have a budgetary impact when you come back, for the upcoming budget cycle. I mean, sky could be the limit. Like, what's our budget to do this, right? Can you just speak to those two things?
Of course. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Intentionally vague in the staff report because our intention tonight was to come forward and get a sense of where the council is at with their desires for how we should move forward with the plan. And so, of course, we have the full range of options. We could take the existing plan and put it in the recycling bin and spend $100,000 with consulting firms and take 6-9 months to engage every single stakeholder that we can find from, between Tempe and Cave Creek. Or we could take the existing plan and have a skinnier process where staff internally goes through and does a quick rewrite of that and enhances some of the areas that we've talked through. I think personally, coming into this position, one of the things that I was really excited about was the opportunity to do strategic planning in both of these areas, economic development and tourism and events. The direction from the city manager, creating this position with the intention of integrating these two related functions was really interesting to me personally and professionally. And so I see that as probably the biggest opportunity here, right? So what we have laid out and in the council materials, what was alluded to is a budgetary decision in the proposed fiscal 26-27 budget. There is, I believe, $100,000 that is earmarked for strategic planning efforts in both of these areas, right? And so it's not that we would use every single cent of that, because again, we have the range of opportunities, but that with mayor and council approval of that budget request would give us the latitude, right, to fully explore our options and find a path that is the best fit for strategic planning in both economic development and tourism and events, right? Based on what I'm hearing, sort of a sense of the council here this evening, there's a lot in the plan that perhaps is good. There is a lot of work that has been done recently, right, in and around Old Town and tourism related that helps to inform that effort going forward. And so perhaps that full option of bringing in and having a consultant different process that is longer and more expensive is probably not the option that we're moving towards right now, right? And so something perhaps in the middle of the skinny version. I think there is a lot of value in bringing in an outside consulting group in some form or fashion. So some of the things that I heard at the dais was talking about comparisons with peer cities. talking about what are we missing and what are other communities doing that we might want to consider, just bringing fresh ideas to the table. And there is a lot of value in bringing some outside perspective to do some of that. The other piece where I think there's a lot of value in using outside consultant, or I would just say facilitator in this regard, is we have a lot of stakeholders, a lot of people are interested in this topic. And so for staff to take that on with just our staff resources in addition to all of our day-to-day workload, I think is a heavy lift, honestly. And so I think it would be really valuable to ensure that we are truly engaging with all of the stakeholders that we can to bring forward all of the best ideas and incorporate them into the revised version of the plan would be well worth our while in time and effort.
That's helpful. So it's the $100,000 internal budget that you're looking to tap into to do this process. And this, you're looking for our direction as to where you should spend most of your focus. Okay.
That's right.
Well, hopefully you get a summary or collective idea of what that is. But I would say our number one goal, and it's been each one of the council members, vice mayor has said this, is really, I think, the number one goal for us right now. We're positioned so nicely, in such an amazing way, not only in the country, the state, the country, but globally. So this is our time, and it's been a great year, and it's our time to really take it to the next level. I would articulate the number one goal as elevating experience, okay? And I think that you do that through so many different ways. There's so many ways to do that. Getting all the oars rowing in the same direction with constituencies. I think top tier, for example, the Westworld event producers, they can be super helpful with this. You spoke about this, getting constituents involved, constituencies, the Old Town, downtown, merchants that are here, bringing them together to articulate. Because really, I don't think, I happen to agree with most everyone here, I don't think we need outside consultants. It's just so obvious. How do we elevate experience here? For me, it's how to move people from place to place, how to tap in and showcase, spotlight what we have already. Bob Pechman said that earlier. For example, when the Open, start with this, let's change it to the Waste Management Scottsdale Open, like it rightfully should be titled. Let's get to work on that. Showcasing Scottsdale and everything we have to offer. But if we can't change the name right away, why don't we have a launch event in Old Town at the waterfront where the spotlight is on Scottsdale? I can tell you, I love the Open. They don't talk about Scottsdale at all out there. You never hear Scottsdale. I mean, the broadcasters say we're in Scottsdale. And that's true, but the focus really could be Scottsdale, more centric, right? Same with Barrett-Jackson. They do so much for our community, and I don't think they could improve on much, but having a pre-launch event down at Old Town. And while Bob Pechman said it's centered on events, I think we can all agree that events bring energy to Old Town and to the merchants. I mean, you cannot argue with that. So getting people to Old Town, which is the next major point, how do you get people there? Already we struggle with how do you get around to Old Town, people that live here, people that come here. How do you navigate Old Town? Having some elevated experience to traverse not only Old Town and downtown, but the entire city. This has been a big issue for a long time. If we could solve that problem, I think, or get an idea, that launch to get people from anywhere, North Scottsdale to Old Town, a shuttle, I don't know what it looks like, technology-wise, but collaborating to get, I just think there's such an opportunity to do that. Showcasing the upcoming Scottsdale Arabian show, right? Organize horse farm tours. The city of Scottsdale could do that. People want to come to Scottsdale to see, they really want to see horses. We really don't, there's nowhere to see them unless you're going to the show or you're going to the Prada. So farm tours would be a super cool idea. Youth sports, someone touched on this earlier, really improving our parks. I know we do an amazing job, but expanding opportunities. For example, lacrosse. I know there's someone in the audience that's very passionate about expanding lacrosse. There's just no room for lacrosse right now, but I think we have the room if we put our minds to it. And if we can, work collectively, I don't think anyone on the dais would disagree that attracting youth sports and visitors associated with youth sports to the city of Scottsdale would be a win-win. Families spend more money than they can afford to spend on their kids' sports, right? Anyone guilty of that here? Yes. Let's see. Talked about shuttles, the preserve, getting people to the preserve. I think that's an entirely underutilized asset for us. People know about it, generally speaking. Who's going to take an Uber to the preserve? I don't know. If there's a way to get a shuttle there, that would be phenomenal from Old Town. Get people around town. And I'm not sure how you solve that problem, but since you're the expert, you're gonna solve that for us. But I do think transportation in our city, and no, I'm not a light rail person, that's been well documented. I'm not a big bus person. I don't think we need more buses. If there would be shuttles come to mind, trolleys have been discussed in Old Town. I think this is a real opportunity for us to take us to the next level. From a marketing perspective, another question about that, are you working with Experience Scottsdale on this? Because there's a lot of overlap and education, synergy. Are you planning to work with Experience Scottsdale?
Short answer, yes. They're a key stakeholder for the city.
I think that they're probably going to have a lot of good input. But, instead of, Vice Mayor Clausman made this observation quite some time ago, but instead of trying to be all things to all people, I think you hone in on what we do really, really well, what we've already perfected. I was going to burn up the spring training using the Scottsdale Stadium, enhancing the uses there, making it easier for people to not only do the iconic events, but making it easier for people to get to them, making them better known and celebrated, and just an overall better experience. And that includes the transportation component I talked about. So I think that's it. I don't know. Oh, and the Performing Arts Center that I think we could really use in the future. I don't know how, this isn't going to get us there, but ideas would be great.
Great.
Not to take away from Scottsdale Arts, because I love it, but just, add 1,500 seats to that. So then we're in the ballgame of big event,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, if there's nothing further, I really appreciate the feedback and the opportunity to bring this item forward to council. And we will, I believe what I would like to do is summarize what I heard tonight, and then we'll follow up with mayor and council in memo form and chart our path forward, I think, with direction and approval, mayor and council's approval of this item in the budget.
Okay, thank you. I just want to add one thing. I think this goes without saying, because we've gone over this before, improving the walkability in Old Town. The sidewalks, the look, the feel, the rocks that someone planted all over Old Town. There's a lot of complaints about those. Just making Old Town more beautiful than it already is. Yeah, can we all agree on that? Oh, we have consensus on one issue. I love this celebration, and with that, we'll adjourn. No, I'm kidding.